It's on?
Yeah.
Okay. The Ramchal in the first parak of Derech Hashem speaks about what's called the unity of God. That God is really one. If you look in the entire Torah, most of the times that it refers to God, the Rebbeinu Shalom, it talks about what He does. That God is a creator, He's a judge, talks about His attributes, He's compassionate and long-suffering and merciful, whatever, and so on. But when you take a look and you ask yourself, well, where in the Torah does it talk about who God is? And that's really what we want to discover. Who is God really? How do we understand actually the greatest being of all? That is the Rebbeinu Shalom. How do we understand Him? Who is He? Can we understand His nature? And there's a lot of ideas that one can really say about the Rebbeinu Shalom. There is a place in the Torah where they talk about the Rebbeinu Shalom. Where is that? It says, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Hear Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. So there is a statement, the concept of oneness, that the Rebbeinu Shalom is one. And that's really a statement about who He is. That He is one, not two, or three. So therefore, it would be very profitable to think about the concept of oneness. And the truth is that the idea of oneness yields a great deal of information. It's very crowded, so you gotta...
What did you do?
Stop with the food. When the food stops.
I think this is like, maybe the videos online, the Al Qaeda guys are scaring everybody out of it.
In any case, so there is a concept that the Rebbeinu Shalom is one. And what I'm going to try to do is show you that from the standpoint of that idea itself, the fact that God is one, there's a tremendous amount of information that one can understand. And this is a great introduction really to the first parak where the Ramchal talks about motzi sabere, which means the existence of God. When we say that the Rebbeinu Shalom is one, obviously that means He's one and not two. But I had once, as we will see, I had once mentioned that the Rebbeinu Shalom is one and He's not two is really a relative statement, because the concept of quantity does not apply to God. We'll understand that. We'll see what that means. So we say that God is one, but the concept of quantity doesn't really apply to Him. So that's an important idea. Even though we say He's one, which means that He's one, not two, that assumes that the concept of quantity applies to Him, but it really doesn't. But let's take a look at the ideas called oneness, that the Rebbeinu Shalom is one. There's an interesting question that one can ask. When we say that the Rebbeinu Shalom is one, does that mean that He is one, but there could be two? Or there cannot be two? There's something within the laws of existence that says that a being with the nature of God is impossible to be more than one. It's an interesting question. In other words, Is God one and there just happens not to be two? So in a certain sense we could say that the Rebbe is lucky, right? Or is it much more profound than that? That we say that the Rebbe is one, but there cannot be more than one of that type of being. Everything that we describe, when we say there's something that's one of a kind, right? That's called relative oneness. For instance, there are many things in the world that are only one of a kind. There's a certain stamp that's only one of a kind, coins, furniture. I remember I once was in Versailles, and in Versailles, which is a magnificent palace of Louis XIV in France, and there was this incredible desk, and they said it took 36 years to make. I mean, obviously, you can imagine what kind of desk it was, And
Wondering who ordered the desk, also pretty unique person.
the what?
Whoever ordered the desk, also pretty unique one of a kind.
Yeah, well, it was obviously Louis XIV, but it was one of a kind in the world, Does that mean if the guy spent another 36 years, he couldn't have made a second? Of course he could have made a second. He just didn't. He just didn't do it. So that's called relative oneness. Relatively speaking, it's the only one, but it does not what's called preclude the possibility that there could have been two. That's called relative oneness. When we say that the Hashem is one, it's different than relative. It's called absolute oneness. It means that a being of the nature of God, whatever that nature is, cannot be more than one in existence. There is something that makes it impossible for there to be two. So therefore, the first concept of oneness automatically deviates from the idea of what's oneness, that the Hashem cannot be two. It's not because he's one and there just happens to be that there is no other, so he doesn't share his divinity with anybody else. No. Existence does not allow for the presence of another being like God besides God. But now what that means, we'll see. But right now we need to understand the concept of absolute oneness.
But it's a legal question. He created existence. He provides existence. What's meant existence?
Oh, that's wait. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. All I'm saying right now is when it says Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, that God is one, it means that He's absolutely one, that He cannot be two. There cannot be another being like God with that type of a nature. So that's an important idea. So He's one, absolutely one. So that's the first concept of oneness, which is an astounding concept because we don't really know what that means. We don't know, why can't there be two? I can understand if there isn't two, why can't there be two? Strange. But in any case, that's the concept of God, the concept of oneness. So we say that God is one, externally one. There's no other being like Him that exists, nor can there be any other being like Him that has existence. Period. That's absolute oneness. So that's the beginning of our examination of the concept of oneness. Let's take a look. Let's go further. The truth is, when we say that God is one, it has also another meaning. Not only is God externally one, which means that He cannot be duplicated at all, or there is no other being like Him, but He is also internally one. What does internally one mean? We know that the world is complex. Everything you see is made up of parts. Everything. That's called complexity. Even an atom, which is, we say, the smallest thing, is also made up of parts. What are the parts? You have electrons, you have protons, neutrons, quarks, and so on. Even something as small as an atom also has many parts. So there is nothing that's truly one. Even one, everything that's one is really a composite of many different attributes. But the Rebbe Hashem is different. The Rebbe Hashem is one truly. He has no parts. It's called the indivisible. Even conceptually, not only you cannot divide God physically into two parts, like with a guy, You can cut him into half. You cut him in half. You cannot do that to Baruch Shalom. In other words, the Baruch Shalom is indivisible. In other words, he is one thing truly. There is nothing. There's no. God is not a composite of anything. He is indivisible. Now again, we don't understand what that means. Because everything we encounter in the Bria is what? Is components, no matter how small they are. But by the Baruch Shem, he is one internally, right? Which means that there's only one thing, and that's God. There are no parts. And therefore, he is indivisible. You can't, so to speak, dissect God and come away with parts. Not only physically, but even conceptually. We'll understand what that means. So that's the second concept of oneness. That God is internally one. It's a very important concept. Now, but that has more on this repercussions of what the concept of internally one. By the way, in Hebrew it's called Pashut. God is Pashut, simple. Simple simply means no parts, as opposed to complex. God is a simple being. There are no components to him. So therefore, the Baruch Shem is indivisible. No parts. Again, we have no idea what that is. There is no such thing in this universe that's truly one. Everything has parts. For instance, a human being. A human being has over 100 trillion cells. And the cells itself has millions of parts. And those parts have millions of parts. It's just that they get smaller and smaller, that's all. But there's always parts that you can dissect. The Baruch Shem you can't dissect. He is a being that is indivisible, truly the concept of one. Now, not only that, but not only is the Baruch Shem one in terms of who he is, but even in terms of the way he acts. What does that mean? For instance, if I say, I know something, right? There are three things in that. There's the me, then I know, there's the act of knowing, and then there's that which I know, something. Right? In grammar, you have the subject and the predicate. You have the subject means I, know, which is the action. Knowing is an action that the brain does, right? And then you have knowledge. What do I know? So in any given person, there are three things, any activity. If I remember something, there's I, right? Then there's the act of remembering, and then there's the memory itself, correct? There's always three things. That's the way we encounter everything. But when it comes to the Baruch Shem, there's no such thing. When we say that God knows something, God, the subject, is identical with the knowledge itself, which is identical to the act of knowing itself. Interesting. In other words, it's not that God knows something. God is the knowing, and he's the something that he knows. It's one thing. It's identical. It's called an identicality. When we speak about it in three different ways, right? But when you talk about the true achdus of the Rebbeinu Shalom, and this is part of the concept of being pashut, simple. When we say that God is a simple being, means not only that there's no parts, not only therefore is God indivisible, but even that which God does is indivisible from him. It's him. Now, we do not understand what that means. We can hear it, but we cannot conceive of what that really means. The Rambam says that in the Yad, Mishnah Torah. We can hear it, but we don't know what that means. We've never encountered a being that you have the being and he is identical with the acts that he does, and he's identical with the aftermath of the act, the knowledge. We don't know we have no idea even what that is, how you pull that off. You see. But this is all part of the concept called pashut, simple. It's all part of the concept called echad, one. So, what have we reached so far? We've reached certain interesting conclusions. One, the Moshe is an echad, he's one. What does that mean? That there is no other God. Not because there isn't, it just doesn't have to be another God. It's impossible to be another God with the nature of the Rebbe Shalom. Existence does not allow two beings like God and another being. That's the concept of echad, oneness.
Isn't oneness a created concept?
You're way ahead. You gotta hold on. Right now, this is what it says. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. God is one. And I'm explaining now that the concept of the term one, what does it mean? So the first idea, echad, means one, right? That there is no other being with God or like God. Now, like I explained that, relatively speaking, we would say, well, it's true that there is only one God, but why can't there be a second? And I said that there cannot be. That's called absolute oneness. That God is a being that cannot be duplicated at all. So that's called absolute oneness. Second idea, I said that echad, yochid, one is one, but he's a yochid, singular. It's what's called a singularity, right? That means he's poshut, he's simple. There is no complexity, which means that there are no parts. Everything we encounter as parts, he has no parts.
But toiv, I mean, he's echad and he's toiv also.
No.
Isn't toiv another aspect?
No, that's what I'm trying to say. It's the same way. The second concept of Poshetz is what? Not only is he has no parts and he's indivisible, but he's identical with his attributes. He is the attribute. We don't understand what that means.
No, but there are two. He's one and he's toiv. So there are two things already.
No. Toiv and him are identical. Again, I'm telling we don't understand how. The Rambam says that. We don't understand what that means. God remembers something. Well, God is identical with the act of remembering, with the memory itself. It's one thing called God. There is no thing that God has a memory. The memory and the act of memorizing is God. We don't understand how that could be. We don't understand what it means. We can hear it, but we do not understand what that means.
At the end of Shil, we'll understand.
Huh. When we say that God is good, it's not that God has an attribute called good. God is identical with his attributes. Again, we don't understand what that means. But that's the concept of yochid, singular.
Means all in its essence?
What was that?
It's all in his essence?
No, it's not.
Does Hashem have an essence?
No, it's more than this. We have an essence too. But we have several ideas in our essence. What's the essence of a man? A rational animal. We are animal in the sense that we have a body. We are rational, we could think. We are sentient, means we can sense. And we're rational means we have the capacity to think. But that's man. The definition of man is a rational animal because we have everything the animals have. They have a body, they're able to move, and so on, but they're not rational. They don't think, But man is a rational animal, that's the definition. So therefore you have two essences. You have part of the essence has several features. One is that he's an animal. Second, he's rational. But they're both part of his essence.
Okay.
With God, it's not that they're both part of his essence. They are him. There's only one thing called God, and everything is identical to him. Again, we don't understand what that means or how. So if I say God is good, it's not that God is good. God and goodness are identical. Again, that's poshut.
No,
but we do not understand how such a pashtus can manifest. We don't understand that. We've never seen that before. So far, so good?
If I say he's good, that means it's part of his essence. I mean, he's one. Him and good is one.
No. Part of his essence simply means that's what defines him. What I'm saying is much more than that. Is that anything you know about his essence is identical to him. It's a unity, an absolute unity. Like I showed you, man is a rational animal. There are two parts of his essence. He's animal and he's rational. It's two things. Are they not? But with God, if I say, when we talk about God, we talk about God that He is the thing, the attribute itself. It's not that God acts. God is the action. We don't understand what that means. Again, the Rambam mentions this. He says, we can hear it, we have no understanding of what that means. That's the concept of, we've never encountered it, certainly not. That's the concept of Pashut, simplicity. Now, you may say, wait a minute. I can show you something that God is a composite of at least two things. Okay? What are they? Wait. Let's take a look at this table. This table has an essence, right? It has many, many attributes. It has size, has shape, it has material, it has density. There's a lot of different parts going to this table. You know what I'm saying? So therefore the table clearly is a composite, right? But there's something else that this table has. That's all part of its essence. Now, but this table has something else. Besides the fact that this table has an essence, what's an essence? Those are attributes which make a thing what it is. If you removed any of it, it would cease to be that, be something else. You see. So therefore, everything has an essence. However, besides essence, everything has something else. It's called, the quality called existence. To be. It is. We don't know what that is. We don't know what existence is, really. So we could say that this table has minimally two different things. It has an essence of whatever that is, but also that essence has existence. So there you are, two things. Why can't we say, okay, God is one, fine. We don't understand what that means, but He's a simple being, fine. But even as a simple being, He has existence, does He not? He is. So therefore, whatever the existence is, whatever the quality of existence is, it's a second thing that He has. For instance, we can dream of we can think of things that have no real existence. A winged horse, right? It can exist in my mind. It's a mental image, representation, right? But it has no existence. It's missing the quality of existence. You see. So therefore, God, whatever He is, simple, but He has the quality called existence. He is. Right? So therefore, right now we see that there are two things. There's the essence of God, even if it's simple, and the fact that He is. He exists.
You could say they're identical to Him, exactly the same way you should attributes.
Well, what would that mean? What would that mean? What you're proposing, which I'm going to say, is that we have to say the same thing. That God doesn't have existence. In fact, I'll throw it out. Who says that God has existence? Who feels that God has existence? Yes or no? He doesn't.
God exists.
He exists, he doesn't have existence.
Well,
He created existence, and within, and He took this as an attribute.
You said it a few weeks ago that His existence.
I know, you see, you guys, that I had spoken. Let me put it this way. God doesn't have it. He is it. You see, it's the same concept of Pashtus.
And it's all part of
That God, what?
It's all part of effort.
So God didn't
It's all
create
part of effort.
anything?
You know it's what?
God
Wait.
didn't create
Wait. Forget about that. Let's just go simple. The existence of God is identical to God. Same thing. Just like God is the act of knowing and the knowledge itself as one, and we don't understand how that works. God doesn't have existence. He is it. Therefore, God and existence are identical. That's a very, very important and profound concept. That God doesn't have existence. Existence and Him are identical.
I thought it was a creation of God, existence.
Okay? Now, that idea answers many questions.
Same about essence, right?
Who?
Same about essence.
The essence of God
exactly
is
same.
existence.
So it's exactly the same, basically.
Same thing. The essence of God is existence per se. Now, the problem we have is that we've never seen. Have you ever seen existence by itself without an object that has it? No. We've never seen existence in and of itself. How do we know existence exists? Because we see things that have it, right? We have existence. That's how we know there's such a quality called existence, right? But if you took existence out of something, what would happen to the thing? It would instantly cease to exist. It would disappear, right?
But
then what would you look at?
Yes.
We have never seen existence in and of itself without an object to adhere in. No such thing. That's how we know existence is inseparable from objects that have it. It doesn't exist by itself. Look at it that way. Existence is not a quality that can exist by itself.
It's an attribute.
Well, of course it's an attribute, yeah. But existence is a quality that doesn't exist by itself. It always is found together with an object that it gives existence. You see. But God is pure existence, or existence per se, which is very interesting. That answers many, many questions, by the way. For instance, we say that God is omnipotent. God is all-powerful. How does he do it? What makes him all-powerful? And the answer is, because if you are existence itself, you could do anything. You are existence. You may be whatever you want. That's why he's all-powerful. God is existence, so he can make exist whatever he wants. That's absolute power. That's called omnipotence, all-powerful. If I can give existence to anything I want, doesn't that make me all-powerful? Of course it does. It's the greatest power of all. To be in charge of existence is the greatest power of all. So it answers how God is omnipotent. It also answers how God is omniscient. He knows everything. Because whatever there is for him to know, why does he know it? Because he gave it existence. That's why he knows it.
And he keeps giving it too. Not just
Yes, he maintains it also. But the reason why God knows everything is because there can't be anything that God doesn't know, because if he doesn't know about it, it doesn't exist. So, of course he doesn't know about it, because it doesn't exist. You see. So therefore, since God gave existence, then he knows about everything that he gives. Without him giving existence, it wouldn't exist. So therefore, there's no knowledge about that. So we see our God is omniscient, that he knows everything, because everything needs the existence of God to be. Therefore, he knows everything. In fact, how does God know, really, that I'm giving a shir now? How does he know that? Does he see it? No. His knowledge doesn't come because of observation, because we are not external to him. The reason why God knows that I'm giving a shir, and that you're all listening, hopefully, or not, is because we exist through him. He's here. He is us. We exist. We are in him. So God knows us because he knows himself. You see. God knows himself, so therefore he knows everything that he makes, which is part of him. So he doesn't see us. He knows that we exist because he's giving us existence, right? And we are sort of like emerged from him in that sense. That's why he's omniscient.
So we're not a part of him?
We are part of him, yes.
So you said there's no parts in him?
Yes, that is a difficulty, yes. Yes, that would seem to be a difficulty. He has no parts, ultimately, yet we emerge from him. So does that mean we are a part of him? We'll see. Good question.
But why don't you say there's no parts in his essence, but we are creation? Why
We
do you
are
say that?
creations. Wait, so. Yeah.
Wouldn't it mean that we are more of a manifestation of him?
What was
rather
that?
than a part? We are a manifestation of him rather than a part.
But even a manifestation is a part. It's True. But that would be considered a part.
You are just part of his energy, as it were.
Yeah, but still. Let's go. So, what's so slow? So therefore, we understand why he's omnipotent. We understand why he's omniscient. He knows everything. Why is God omnipresent? It means he's all over. It says, "Moli kol haaretz kavodah," right? That his honor fills the entire universe. Why? Because if there was a part that he was not there, right, it wouldn't exist. Because how could it exist be independent of God? The reason why God is all over is because wherever he's not doesn't exist. So if there's such a thing as all over, he has to be there in order to give it existence. You see. That's why God is Molech Kol Haaretz Kavodah, which is really astounding when you think about that. Because the known universe is 13.7 billion light years. And a light year is 6 trillion miles. So the measure of distance, not time. So 6 trillion times 13.7 billion. That's the size of the known universe. The known universe. Now that's pretty big. 13.7 billion times 6 trillion. That's phenomenal. So God is that size. Talk about the size of God. He has to be at least the size of the known universe, because it emerges from him. You see. So without a being that whose size is infinite, because he's got to encompass all of reality. You see. In fact, what's interesting, so what do we have? We understand why he's omnipotent, we understand why he's omniscient, why he's omnipresent. We also understand why he's a borei. How does God create? And the answer is, we can't create, we can only discover or invent. That's it. In other words, we have to take the materials that already exist and reshape them or find out about them. Right? We can form them, we can find out about them. You know, we can't make them, we can't give them existence. But if God is existence, then he can give them existence. So he can become a creator. The reason why the Hashem is a borei, because he's in charge, so to speak, of existence.
Creator of what? Of the rules of nature?
Well, whatever he created. How does he... To create something means to create something out of nothing.
Right. But
Right?
how many things are created out of nothing? Like 2 things, right?
What 2 things?
In the material for the world.
Whatever, yeah.
Whatever it is,
yeah.
the smallest possible.
Yeah.
And the rules of nature.
Well, yeah,
These
but...
are the 2 categories. Of creation.
Well, there are more categories,
There's more
but
categories.
yeah. But in any case, that's why God is a creator. A creator means to create from nothing, creation ex nihilo it's called, right? But how do you pull it off? And the answer is because God gives existence, because he is existence, so in some way he just forms whatever he wants to be. That's why he can create. Only a being that is existence itself can create. We're not existence ourselves. We have existence, which is God, and therefore we can't create. So that's why the Hashem is a borei. He's a creator, you see. And not only that, what's interesting also, if you ask yourself, is God part of reality? Interesting question.
No, he created reality.
Reality is a part of God, which is interesting. Everything which is real, reality, he's not part of something called reality. Reality is part of him.
What's the difference?
He is reality, you see. And he decides what reality should be.
What's the difference between existence and reality?
Reality simply means that which is.
So that is existence.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so he is reality. He's not part of something bigger called reality. Reality is part of him, or he is reality. Yeah.
God and reality are one and the same.
Correct. Exactly. Now what's interesting to that, okay, is that therefore God decides what reality is. There are certain laws of nature called the transcendental laws of being. Yeah, I spoke about this.
Yeah.
The transcendental laws of being, for instance, Nothing can exist and not exist at the same instant in time. As they say, you either is or you ain't. It means either you exist or you don't exist, right? There's no between. There's no such thing as a between. To be or not to be. There is no such thing in between. That's one law of reality. Okay? A second law of reality, okay, is that between existence and non-existence, there's no middle. There's no middle possibility. So first law of reality is called, first transcendental law of being, is where you cannot exist and not exist at the same time, instant time. You either exist or you don't. You know, it's either one or the other. You cannot have both at the same instant. Which, by the way, is very important because one of the most important things the way we reason is called contradiction. You know, if you have A and you have B, A can contradict B. Yeah, but what happens if A could be B? A could be B and at the same time that it's A. You wouldn't have a contradiction. You see, we reason based on the laws of reality, based on these transcendental laws of being. Because we know something can contradict because it cannot be itself and the other thing at the same time. It can't be itself and not itself at the same time, you see. And then between reality, between A and B, there's no such, between existence and non-existence, there's no middle. There's no middle ground. Who made these laws of being? God. So he could violate them. You find violations of these laws in the Torah, you see. So even the most fundamental laws of existence, called the transcendental laws of being, God made.
How many laws are
And
there?
three.
Oh.
What are
He
the
made.
three?
What?
What are the three again? One is exist or not exist.
You cannot exist and non-exist at the same time.
There's no
Between
middle.
existence and non-existence, no middle. And the third one, I think it's called the law of identity, means A is A, and not A cannot be A and B at the same time.
Why are they not all one and the same? Those two are-
No, there are three different aspects of reality.
they're all
You cannot
the same.
exist and not exist at the same time. Between existence and non-existence, there's no middle.
What does that mean there's no middle?
And A is always A. You cannot be A and B at the same instant in time. A is always A. It can't be A and B at the same time. You know what I'm saying?
Be A and B at the same time.
Yeah. So those are three laws which are called the transcendental laws of being.
There's a
And
theory.
we exist by them. We think about them. The question is, why? What made them? And the answer is God. A being that is its existence itself has determined the framework of existence. Because these are the rules that existence, our existence anyway, has to operate within. That has to conform to these three fundamental rules. Have I got that?
Is that Elu Velu Divrei Elokim Chaim? Is that part of this?
It could be seen that way, yes. Elu v'elu divrei Elokim Chaim. You know what I'm saying? Actually, divrei Elokim means the words of the living God, right? He said both things. But this is even more fundamental. You know? Existence and its non-existence, or it's something else, the middle, whatever. So the one who gave rise to this is God, even those laws. So therefore, God is not part of reality. Reality is part of God. Got it? So that's the ultimate concept of Pashut. Pashtusoi. Where do we see this, by the
He
way?
himself is not limited to these three rules.
No, he created these rules. He created these rules that existence must conform to for us. But he can violate them. Very interesting. Where do you see this? Because when Moshe Rabbeinu said to the Bershom by the snare, by the burning bush, what did Moshe Rabbeinu say? What's your name? What do they call you? So the Bershom said, Yashe you know, I will be what I will be. Whatever. Okay, forget about the fact that it's the future tense, you know. But essentially what God said, I am that I am. It means I am. Did God answer Moshe Rabbeinu? When Moshe Rabbeinu said, what do they call you? So Baruch Hashem said, I am. Yes, of course he answered him. Because God is the am of the I. I am the am.
No,
Got that?
No. Oh, I am.
I am, so he said, I am the am. English has verbs to be. You don't have that in Hebrew. Like when in Hebrew you say, I'm walking, ani holech. Hebrew doesn't say, I am walking, because the Hebrew assumes that if you're walking, you probably exist. See, English is not sure about that. So English always has to have some aspect of the verb to be. Right? I am. What's am? I am means I exist and I'm walking. It's part of the verb to be, and so on. So therefore, in that sense, God answers Moshe Rabbeinu. He says, I am that I am. So it sounds like, what kind of double talk is that? I am that I am. I didn't ask you, you are that you are. We know you are what you are. I asked you what they call you. So the Rav Hashem says, I am. I am the amming. I am the verb itself. In fact, what's the name of God? Yud Kei Vav Kei. Liyois. The word Yud Kei Vav Kei, which is the tetragrammaton, the four-letter name of God, comes from what verb? Liyois, to be. Hoya hoive v'yiyeh. He was, he is, and he will be, right? And Yud Kei Vav Kei, the origin of that is the verb to be, liyois, to be. Why would God take a name, right, that is a derivative of the verb to be? And the answer is, that's essentially who he is. It's being itself. So therefore, what we come to is very interesting conclusions. The essence of God is existence. Pure by itself, without having to adhere into an object and give it existence. In other words, the Baruch Hashem, before he created the universe, existed. You see. Now we understand certain other ideas. Why is God one? Why is he an absolute one? Remember I said that? We now understand. The reason why he's absolutely one is why? Is because there can only be one thing that's existence. There can be many things that have existence, and they have different essences.
There could be two types of existence.
Two types of existence?
Yeah, why not?
What type do you mean?
I have no idea. I don't know what existence is. I don't know what
So
type.
then there's no types. Existence simply means being, the quality of being. The only type of existence you can refer to is you either exist or you don't exist. But then non-existence isn't the type, because there's no existence.
I mean, no, there is existence in Ruchnius, there is existence in Gashmius.
No, you're making a mistake. Those are just two different essences. There's a spiritual being, they have a spiritual essence, and there's a physical being, that has a physical essence. That's all. But they're just two different types of beings. But in the quality called existence itself, there's only one thing called existence. And that's it. That's why God is absolutely one. Existence, a being that is existence itself, can only be one. There cannot be two beings that are existence.
Existence is a creation. He created existence.
Forget about that. You put that aside. That's later on. You're jumping where, and you have to build up to that. You gotta wait. Look, you have the benefit of having heard, this shir, so put that benefit aside. Got that? Everybody understand? That's why the Baruch Hashem is absolutely one. Because there can be many beings, many essences. But a being whose essence is existence itself, there's only one, that's it. That's it. There's only existence and that's all. That which has existence can be many. There are many essences. So on. Spiritual beings, physical beings, whatever. Mental beings. But a being that is existence itself can only be one. So that also gives an understanding of why God is absolutely one. And the last feature of God is an interesting feature, which
Isn't that
Ramchal
by
brings
definition-
down. Was that?
Isn't that always by definition, something being immortal is always in existence?
Say that again?
Anything that's not mortal is always in existence, no?
Everything that's not mortal is what?
It's by definition in existence,
No.
no?
Angels are not mortal.
And?
They don't, I mean, angels are not, they don't die.
Are they not existent?
No, of course not. They're spiritual beings. Angels have existence, whatever their nature is. But it's a different type of essence.
Who's to say that they're not mortal?
What does mortal mean?
Something that will cease to exist at any given
Angels
time in
will
the
always
future.
be. There's no death by angels.
Don't they become a new creation based on their sleepers?
But they don't cease to exist.
Malcolm
There's no
fought
death.
quite a while.
There's no death by a
That
malach.
doesn't mean that the future, this
There's no
creation
death.
is destined by divination.
So
That doesn't mean that it's not mortal.
No, but that mortality is the concept of death, right? Existence is another concept. Mortality is a feature of certain beings. They die. But not all beings die. Angels don't die. They always are. There was a time they didn't exist. That's true. But once they're born into existence, Michael will always be.
Is that based the dimensional mindset? What I'm trying to ask is...
I answer yes. Yeah, it is. I mean,
The subtle.
Is the animama that we say that is high of the year, is that in any way connected to him being Yuchid?
you need to take the cup away so I can see what you're saying. Now say it.
Is the animama that we say high of the year in any way connected to the animama that we say that he's Yuchid and Yuchid?
Anyway, connected which?
That he's Yuchid and Yuchid.
Yachid.
Yuchid and Yuchid.
Well,
Come, sit down. Come to the table.
wait. When we say, you see, don't compare until you've defined it first. When we say hoya hoiva v'yiyeh, what are we saying? Forget the comparison, because we don't even know what this is. What does that mean? Hoya hoiva v'yiyeh. What does it mean?
Existence.
No. What does that?
Was,
What does
is, and
that
will be.
statement mean?
Was, is, and will be.
What does it mean?
The essence.
No, you're just saying the statement. I don't. What does it mean? Give me the significance of that statement.
Independent of time, probably.
No,
Oh, yeah.
He himself is existence.
no. You guys are fishing around.
That's exactly my question is.
No. What is hoya hoiva v'yeh? We know what it translates as. He was, he is, he will be. What does that say?
He exists.
Who?
I plead the fifth.
You plead the fifth. What it says is that he always was, he always will be. That's called eternal.
Okay.
God is eternal.
What's
Means
that?
there was no time that he wasn't, and there will be no time that he isn't.
That's in no way
That's
connected-
eternality. He's eternal.
That's in no way connected to the
Well, but
word
eternal
existence.
simply means that God has an attribute of being eternal. Why is he eternal? Because existence is eternal, which is what I'm going to say, which is the next concept called mukha chametzius. We do not have to exist. We may or may not exist. There's nothing that makes us be. But one of the outstanding features of God, which Ramchal brings down, and the Rambam brings down, and so on, is called necessary being. Mukha chametzius. He must be. In other words, God cannot commit suicide. It is not possible. That's a rather dramatic way of saying it. I don't know if that's good or bad. But anyway,
So it's in no way connected?
I'm showing it is in a certain way. God cannot not exist. Just like there can be no second being like God, there cannot be an existence without God. He cannot not exist. Period. He absolutely must be. Absolutely. There's no choice in a certain sense. That's called mukh hametzius. Therefore, God is eternal. Because he must be, he's eternal. Because there can never be a time when he's not, or when he will be not. You see? So he is eternal. That's all that statement means.
Isn't that by definition, if that be true,
Yes, it is true.
then obviously it's true. Then,
Yeah, go ahead.
then doesn't that by hechech force him to be in existence?
To
And
be
yuchid-
existence.
To be yuchid and yuchid. You just said that yuchid is only existence.
Yes, that's what I want to say. The question, why is he Muchach HaMetzias? And the answer is because he is existence. You see, a being that has existence, you could take it away, and it ceases to be. But what happens if you are existence? Where are you going to go? You can't you can't take it out of him. That's him. Where are you going to put it? You know what I'm saying? In other words, if you have two components, I can separate the components. You know, but if a being is existence itself, then it can't not exist. It is. It cannot. It can't. A being that has existence cannot not exist.
And there can be two of them.
Well, that's another concept called absolute oneness, and there cannot be two of them. Because a being that has an essence, you can have many essences, spiritual beings, material beings, and so on, physical beings. But a being that is existence itself, you know what I'm saying? It's an absolute oneness. What?
Mukham just means that he has to be, or it means
That he must be.
That he is.
No, he must exist. His non-existence is not possible.
Why is that?
Because he is existence. So it's something which has existence. I can take it out, and the thing ceases to be. Remember, everything has two things in it: an essence, its major characteristics, and the fact that this essence has existence. So if I remove the existence from something, then its essence ceases to exist. But if the essence of something is existence itself, that's what it is. I can't take it away. That's it. Where am I going to put it? I can't separate that. You see? So therefore the existence of God, right, must be. Yeah.
So in other words, God in reality is one and the same, God in existence is one and the same.
Yes.
And God in eternity is one and the same.
Well, eternity is a feature of a being that is existence itself. Although remember one thing, I need to qualify that. If God makes you be, He can make you eternal. But there was a time you did not exist. You see, true eternal means what? That you always were. Even if God wants us to be forever, which He does, and that's the whole concept of Olam Haba, that we will exist forever. That's what Olam Haba is, right? Olam Haba is a place that we exist forever. That means there will be no time that we cease to be for those who are Zoicha, merit Olam Haba, which is an incredible concept. It's beyond, you can think about that for all day long and just what that means, you know? And say that we, for those who God chooses, will never cease to be. Never. Unbelievable. You know? And not only will we never cease to be, but the definition or the experience in Olam Haba is what? Infinite bliss eternally. That's what Olam Haba is. It's a place that has infinite bliss eternally.
How do you decide after that?
Wait, so that which is be, but there was a time we did not exist, right? So there was a time, so we're certainly not eternal in the sense that was what? That there was a time we didn't exist. But God is truly eternal. It means there was no time, so to speak, that He did not exist.
In other words,
Anyway,
if we're Zocher, we will be eternal.
yes.
But God transcends time, and we never live.
Well, forget about time or not. You can exist eternally in time.
Right.
It just doesn't end. I'm not forgetting.
Transcend time the way God can.
I'm not saying whether God exists in time or not. That's not the issue. The issue is whether He exists in time or not, you go on forever. Even in time, you can go on forever. It just never ends.
But that's not the same. Being eternal is not the same as transcending time.
No, it's a different concept. They're subtle, but it's different. Being truly eternal means always was. Means there's no such thing as a time that you never were. That's the concept of being eternal. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Time is that you are eternal in time.
Right.
Means you are subject to the whatever time is, the dimension called time. You are subject to that dimension. And you still could be eternal. But they're two different concepts.
We will be eternal, but we will never transcend time because there was a time when we did not exist.
Well, that itself is really difficult. That's questionable. Will we be eternal because we do not exist in time anymore, or we still exist in time except it goes on forever? It's not clear what the answer is. But either way, you're eternal. Anyway, either way. Anyway, if I got that so far, look how many questions are answered.
Does eternal prove existence?
Does he? No.
No?
No.
There's some,
It's just a feature of a being that's existence.
so anything,
I never said it proved it.
I'm not saying that, I'm asking.
Right?
So something that we believe that was, is, and will forever be,
Yes?
does that prove that that thing is something that is existence?
No. You mean, yes, that,
You can't have eternity without existence.
Oh,
that's a good question. For something that,
right? I don't mean to make a play on words, but to me, what bothers me is that the two animals, to me, it almost seems repetitive. You
They'll-
just said that anything that is existence, by definition, not something that is a being, but something that exists.
which two animals do you feel are repetitive?
The one that we said, I know that it's Hayah,
Which means he is eternal. Right?
was and will forever be.
Okay, put it another way, there was never a time that he did not exist. Which is past,
so
present.
right after that, Yuchid Michad.
Yochid Umiyuchid, yeah, that God is one.
You just said that because he is I am the am, that means that he's Yuchid. It's not shaykh to something else.
So what I'm doing now is the Yochid part. I'm saying Yochid refers to his simplicity. Echad refers to the fact that he is one. Yochid refers to the fact that he's internally one. He's simple. So what I've done then is saying, well, what about existence? So I've said that he's internally one, which means that he is identical with his existence. He is existence, and that will answer why he's eternal.
It's not repetitive.
No,
It's just that
No.
he's looking at a being.
no.
That would make it repetitive. Just looking
No,
at a different
no.
angle.
A being-
No, said I look the same thing in different angles.
No, a being that
It's anything focusing on one.
a being that is existence itself will have an attribute called eternal. One is an attribute, the other is a being, a nature of the being.
It doesn't have to do.
Two different concepts.
It's not the hashtag that if I believe that he was Hayah, that he is Yuchid.
That's a good question. If God always was, if God always was, does that
He will
mean?
always be. That means that he is the am.
I want to tell you something. Aristotle. Have you ever Aristotle? Okay.
Yes.
Wasn't of Aristotle. Aristotle. Aristotle and the Rambam fights him in Moreh Nevuchim. That's really one of the reasons why I wrote Moreh Nevuchim, is to counter Aristotle, because everybody was adapting Aristotle's view. Aristotle held that there is a God. He held there was a God. He believed in God. But his God is an interesting God. It's different. His God, he says, always was eternal. And therefore the universe is really an outgrowth of this God, so the universe always was. And that's how he gets around the question of first cause. Aristotle, because the question is, well, who made God? Yeah, they all go back, because we know that everything has a cause. This world, events in this reality, how are they arranged? Cause and effect. Everything that happens must have a cause. That's the way God arranged events. There's no such thing as an event that has no cause, even though it looks like there are. There are electrons that pop into existence and they immediately disappear. Now we don't know where they come from, where they go. It would see that they pop out of existence. That's not really true. They probably become pure energy. Electron is either pure energy, creates the electron and goes back into pure energy. But it comes from something, but everything has a cause and effect. What's called a sibo and a mesoibo. Okay? That's how God arranged events. What was I answering? I deviated.
How the two animals.
No, what was I just...
You said that Aristotle also believed that.
Oh, Aristotle, yeah. So Aristotle, in order to get away from the concept of first cause, said that God is eternal. He always was. And therefore the universe always was. And therefore there's no cause. There's no first cause. Okay. Now, Aristotle never said God is existence itself. He never said that. So it is possible, based on him, that something always was and is not as existence itself. Based on Aristotle. Right? So something can be eternal, which means always was, although we don't understand that. We mean something always
And
was.
something can be existence.
And it does not have to be existence itself. What I'm saying is
That's
because
okay.
there's a concept called Yochid, singular, that God is identical with his existence, and that explains why God is eternal. Aristotle didn't use that at all. That's all. You know what I'm saying? So one does not have to necessarily include the other, to answer your question. Anyway, so therefore we now understand why the Banshim is Muchach HaMetzias. You should know which is one of the major features of God that both the Ramchal and the Rambam use. When they talk about the Banshim and his uniqueness, the major feature or attribute of God that they talk, right, about the Banshim is his Muchach HaMetzias, that he must be. His non-existence is not possible. It's absolute. What I'm trying to do is offer an explanation of that. Why? Why can't it not exist? Why? And it's one thing to say that God always was, but to tell me that there could be a time that it's impossible for it not to be. See, Aristotle doesn't say that. Aristotle just say he always was, but Aristotle does not say that he did not, that he must be. Must be is different than he always was. Always was a simple fact. There was never a time that he did not exist. That's all. However, must be is a different concept. Must be that the reason why he always was is because there cannot be a time that he isn't. It's a different concept. And what I'm trying to explain that concept with the concept of that he's existence itself, and existence must be. Where's it going to go? You see what I'm saying?
The reason
It's
why
different concepts. Anyway,
The reason why he's Hayvi is because he's Echad.
because he is,
Echad and Yuchad.
No, you're saying
I'm using that as the reason why he must be, is that what you said?
The reason why he's Hayvi is the reason why
No.
he must always be.
No, you see, I'm separating the concept of being eternal from must be. Aristotle says that the universe or the God is eternal.
That means that
It means he always was. But the question was, it happened to be, he always was. But who says he can't not be?
He always was means he is eternal, or it means he
He
eternally
always was means eternal.
Means he eternally was. Doesn't mean that he isn't eternal.
He always was. There was never a time that he wasn't, that he did not exist. But that doesn't mean that he can't exist. It just means that somehow he always was.
So how
But does that mean he
says-
can't not be? Doesn't know. What I'm saying is that Muchach HaMetzias is greater than eternal.
But 1 second, Hayvi, it doesn't just say also. It also doesn't just say that he always was.
No.
It says that he always will be too.
No, Hoya Hoiva V'yeh simply says that he always was.
And he always is, and he always will be.
Yes, but that doesn't mean he can't be. Maybe he can't be. It just happens to be that he always was. Then it doesn't imply that the negative cannot be true.
you don't need a
So
cause.
why is it?
You understand
that
that
he's
there's a
Hayvi?
difference. What was that?
Why is it that he's Hayvi? Why is he?
So they don't explain. Aristotle doesn't have an explanation for that.
And you're explaining that by saying that.
I'm trying to explain it. That once we understand that he is existence, then we understand that not only is he eternal, but he must be eternal.
That means that
His
Echad-
non-existence is not possible.
What's
So he must be eternal.
What,
That means that
what's
Echad,
not
which is the Echad, which is the Muchach HaMetzias, right?
Yochid.
Yachid, which is the Muchach HaMetzias,
Yeah,
is the reason why he's Hayvi.
Correct.
The reason why.
that's what I'm offering.
what's
See, but you see the difference.
well, what's not
You can have one without the other, and that's what Aristotle does.
What's
But Muchach HaMetzias is much greater than that. Means his non-existence is not possible. Therefore, he's eternal.
What prevented Aristotle from saying that? Yes, I heard him.
What planet Aristotle to do what?
From stating that. I mean, he
Because
was stuck
why?
with a question of you know,
First cause.
First cause. As far as existence, he had no problems.
No, as far as eternal existence, he had no problems.
Not-
God always was. That's all.
No, I'm saying no. As far as him being existence itself.
He never said that.
Yeah.
Aristotle does not talk about the nature of God, as far as I know. I'm saying
There was
that.
nothing that bothered him that he had to.
I don't know what bothered him. You know, I have no idea what bothered that man.
Something that doesn't need a cause or effect, if it exists.
Always was, so it doesn't need a
Why
cause.
should I assume will cease to exist?
Why should it cease? It won't cease.
Sitzt the Aristotle gleich as that he always was, but it wasn't a hechach that he always has to be.
I don't understand what you're saying. What I'm saying is that the concept of eternal is different than the concept of Derech Hashem. Right? The concept of eternal is different than the concept of must be.
It's partial is different.
Yeah, they're different ideas. Something can always be, it just happened to be that he always was. But who says that his non-existence is impossible? Maybe it's possible, except he lucked out, he always was, that's all. We don't know why he always was, but he lucked out.
Really? How do you come about me?
He doesn't go into how.
Why
It
is
just
that?
says
Something
that
that always
God
was.
is
Yeah,
eternal, and therefore the world is eternal. Anyway,
Created, obviously.
If you didn't have to be created, then isn't that by Derech Hashem?
I thought, I don't know where you're at, I thought I answered that, so, you know.
It's something that always was, Pshat is that nothing made it.
Let me finish this year, okay? Or else. Anyway, it's hopefully so far everybody got it. The concept of eternal is a different concept than can he not exist. And we're saying that God cannot, he must be. And the reason for that I'm offering is the same concept, that a being that is existence itself must be. So we've answered a whole group of ideas that we know is true of God with a true principle of why that's true. That his existence itself. And I'm also showing you when the Moshe says, yeah, I am. And why Yud-Kei Vav-Kei is his name. Because that verb to be means, that's who I am. I'm being itself. You see. Anyway, these are all the ideas of this. So that's a second concept. Echad and then the Yochad. But we also say that God is a miyuchad. That God is a miyuchad. Unique. What does it mean that God's unique? We know that God is the only one. There is no other God. We also know, that's Echad. We also know Yochid, that he is a singularity in the sense that he's internally one. No parts, not indivisible. He's identical with his attributes. His existence is per se, and if he has a whole bunch of attributes that follow from that principle. We know that too. But there's something about the Baruch Shem which is unique. Where do we see this? Moshe Rabbeinu, what was the major Gilui at Har Sinai? A lot of things that were revealed at Har Sinai by Matan Torah. What was the essential revelation? Einod Muvadoi. Ato Haresul Adas. You have been shown that you may know. Ki Hashem Hu Elokim, that God is the Lord, which means he's the master. He's the absolute controller. Einod Muvadoi. Besides God, there's nothing else. Now, what does that mean? It doesn't say Einod Kamoihu. There's nobody like him, which is true. But it's saying Einod Milvadoi. Milvadoi, besides him, Einod. There's nothing else. What the Moshe is showing Moshe Rabbeinu and Klal Yisrael is that you guys don't exist. You guys don't exist, really. I'm the only one that exists. I'm the only one that exists. Milvadoi, besides him, Einod. There's nothing else. That means God is the only one that exists. Now that's interesting. How's that possible? God is the only thing that exists, which tells us maybe that the reason why God is the only thing that exists is because he's existence. So to exist, you need to be it. If you are given it, you don't exist anyway, even after you're given it. That's a very interesting concept. Now, of course, that's like, what? I mean, then why are you talking to me?
I don't exist.
I don't exist. So like, who in the world is even talking to you if I don't exist? I mean, obviously it presents a lot of strange ideas here, But it doesn't make a difference.
Don't we exist by virtue of Yisrael v'Arais Echad?
No. Don't even talk about that. That's later on. I'm much earlier in the ideas, Remember, it says, Milvadoi, doesn't say Einod Kamoihu. It says Einod Milvadoi. And Rab Chaim Volozhin, the Nefesh HaChaim says, Mamish. Literally. On Einod Milvadoi. Mamish. The only thing that exists is God. Nothing else exists. And the reason why God is the only thing that exists is because he is existence per se. But if he has to give existence to something else, namely everything else, Zulosoi, right, besides him, they don't really exist. So then the question is, what in the world's going on here? So the best way I can explain is a mashal. This is the mashal. A guy's on a couch, and he's sleeping, taking a nap. And all of a sudden he dreams. There's a table, and there's two guys talking to each other. And they're having coffee. And one guy says to the other guy, they're talking. And one guy says to the other guy, remember, it's in the dream. One guy says to the other guy, we don't really exist. So the other guy says to him, what are you talking about, crazy? We're talking to each other. He says, no, you understand what I'm saying? We exist relative to ourselves, whatever that is. But relative to the guy sleeping on the couch, we don't exist. We're only a mental representation of his mind. We don't exist like the guy who's sleeping. Not only that, if he woke up, we'd instantly evaporate. And even while he's sleeping, we don't exist like him. He is. We do not exist. But in some capacity, relative to ourselves, we exist. That's really what it's all about. We cannot penetrate the concept of our non-existence. Obviously, we can't. So we exist relative to ourselves. But relative to him, to God, we don't exist at all. In fact, I think it's in Micha, where the Rosh says, V'ani lo shanisi. I have never changed. What? What do you mean you've never changed? There's you before the creation, and then there's you after the creation. Right? That means you also changed. Before the creation you were not a boirei, and after the creation you're a boirei. So you've changed. No. Klapi, the true mitzius of the Rosh Hashanah, nothing exists but him. God has never changed. However, relative to ourselves, there's an entire bria. Now, we cannot penetrate that. We cannot penetrate the meaning, the nature of our non-existence. We cannot penetrate the nature of the universe which non-exists. And we cannot penetrate who he is, who really is. We can't. We can never know those things, you see. But in the end, that's what he told Moshe Rabbeinu, and that's what he told the Bria, the Klal Yisrael. You guys don't understand. You guys don't exist really. In some way, you think you exist. It's almost like we're beings that think we exist, you see. Now, if somebody's going to say, well, if I don't exist and nothing else exists, so why can't I sit on the highway? Because there's no me, there's no trucks, there's no cars on the highway.
Relative to you, not exactly.
Oh, it's because the answer is, right, because a relative non-existent object will destroy a relative non-existent object. Exactly. That non-existent truck will kill the non-existent person. You see, so...
That boy to get up to fight.
So you can't do that kind of stuff, you see. But if you really think about it, I mean, there's a lot. This has tremendous philosophical ramifications, you see. For instance, all of you, you're sitting here looking at me, right? You don't really know if I exist. How would you know? You only know that your brain registers something coming into your eyes. That's all you know. What do we know? We don't know really what's out there. I mean, I see color, like this table is what? Sort of like reddish. You don't know. I don't know if you and I are looking at the same color. You see, nobody knows. Because my reality is subjective. I see a color, but I have no idea what your experience of reality is. We think we see the same reality, right? But this color that I see, this is nothing more than an image in the brain. That's all it is. My brain forms an image based on the frequency of light that bounces off this because of the light bulb. There's a light bounces off this, comes out as a certain frequency, hits my eyes, hits my retina, into the optic nerve, and goes into the brain, the area of the brain, right? And all of a sudden, I see color. There's no such thing as color, really. You see? So you and I don't even know if we're looking at the same thing, really. So our whole observation of reality is purely subjective. you see. We don't even know if we see the same reality. Not only that, what's even worse is we don't even know if anything is out there. You see, all you know about me is I'm talking and I have a sound wave that impinges on your ear. And the brain interprets that sound wave, you see. But we don't know if there's really a sound wave here. Maybe God has a sound wave here, and God is making all the things outside of you that's impinging on your brain, and your brain is interpreting all reality. Everything you see or hear or sense is nothing more than the brain's representation of what's out there. That's all it is. You thought you guys had a handle on reality? We don't even know what's out there. Everything you see, think, experience is nothing more than the brain's representation that he gives to you, the ego. You know what it's like? It's like looking on a screen, and your whole sense of the world is based on that screen, that TV screen. But you don't know what's feeding the screen. You see? What's feeding the screen may be real, or it may be something else making up a reality that goes immediately into the TV screen. And that's what you interpret. Therefore, what's interesting is maybe there is no such thing as reality, really. What the Hashem does is he creates reality that impinges on your brain and your weight, and your brain interprets everything. Which is interesting. Your entire exposure and experiencing reality is nothing more than a mental image. It's a brain image. That's it. Do not think what you really see is really exactly out there. We don't know. None of us know if we see the same reality. None of us know if there's even any reality out there. Because in the end, the only one that tells me anything about what I see and so on is my brain. You see, that's how elusive reality really is. So we don't really know. Maybe all the Rebbeinu Shalom did is he created selves, neshamas. That's all he created. And to each neshama, right, he has what's called an instrument that represents reality, of which he creates around the neshama. And all the neshama does, it looks at different realities that God creates and impinges on the instrument that the neshama looks into. That's the reader or the viewer. We don't know.
Maybe there's only one neshama.
I just want to show you how well.
Mine or yours.
Well, even that. Maybe I'm really you and you're me, and we think we're separate. Or who knows? We don't even have a handle on this stuff. I don't want to get too carried away by this.
Are you saying that God...
Because somebody can say, well, if you and I, and if I'm you and you me, then maybe you I have access to your bank account. I mean, we could really carry this a long way, so,
Bishvili nivra olam means that.
What?
Bishvili nivra olam.
Yeah. Oh, we are.
Are you saying that God is the ultimate projectionist and our brains are the screen?
What I'm saying is that if he was, you'd never know it. You'd never know it.
God is the ultimate projectionist.
He could be, well, he certainly is the ultimate projectionist, yes, because he creates everything. But I'm saying he may not even create a reality that is real. It may be just mental or brain interpretations, sensory input, that's all it is. But he creates the reality which is represented on the instrument called the brain, and the ego sees that. I don't get too complex there, but I'm just saying interesting conjectures. Anyway, so that's what Ein Oid Mavade means. That's the concept of miyuchad. So we've gone through 3 different ideas about God. Look how complex oneness is. He's an echad. There is no other being absolutely like God. He's a yochid. He's singular. He's pashut, simple. He has no parts. He is indivisible. His actions and his attributes are identical to him, and his existence per se, which gives rise to all the attributes. He's omnipotent, he's omniscient, he's omnipresent, he's a creator, okay? He's muchach hametzias, he's eternal, and so on. All these ideas are explained by the fact that he is. And the last idea is, biyuchad, he's unique. Why is he unique? Because he's the only one that exists, really, in the end. And we, in some way, is a dream in his mind, so to speak. But as far as we're concerned, we have a reality. But what I'm saying now is that even that reality may be pure representational. We'll never know. Because you cannot enter my brain to see what I see. There's no way that you can enter my imagery of the world, just like I cannot enter your brain. So we don't even know if we see the same reality. Not only that, we don't even know if there is a reality out there, really. Because the brain interprets everything and tells my ego, whoever the self is, this is the brain is a conveyance device. It conveys a sense of reality. And that's it. But we have no idea what's out there that the brain is receiving.
So believing Ein Od Milvado means that I'm not out there.
Say that again?
Believing Ein Od Milvado is because I'm not out there. And the only reason why I don't say no,
No, not you're not out there. Because you don't, Ein Od Milvado, because you are not existence.
That means that I'm not part of reality.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I'm not out there. What does that mean?
You just said that this philosophical.
Oh, you mean that?
That's what it means, that I'm not out there. I'm purely a representation that's hitting my afterglow that goes onto my brain.
Maybe. I didn't say vadai. I have no idea.
But when I believe Ein Od Milvado, I have to believe Vadai. That means that if I believe
When
Ein
you
Od
believe,
Milvado,
wait. No, I don't understand what you're saying. When you believe what?
When I believe Ein Od Milvado,
Yes?
it's not so that maybe I'm not out there. I have to believe that I'm the emes not out there.
You are not out, exactly.
So
In real
so
terms,
it's
you're not out
So
there.
it's not a suffix. I mean.
Yes.
So when I believe Ein Od Milvado,
Compared to God, you are not out there. Compared to God, we are not out there at all. There is nothing else but Him. And Valino Shanisi, God has never changed.
so how do you have a suffix over there?
What was that?
How do you have a suffix over there whether you're out there or not?
My suffix is the relative world He created. Relatively speaking,
So
are we out there or not? No, relative to Him, we don't exist. Relative to ourselves, even then is a shaila. Is there anything out there or not? Got it?
Maybe it's not you. You understand?
So,
It's not
you
you.
understand what I'm saying?
We own the image in your mind.
Don't get me a box of pizza because I really don't care.
So we don't know if reality is nothing
Belief is
more.
always relatively speaking. You know,
So we don't really know. We don't really know is the whole universe nothing more than a bunch of projections, imagery and so on, or there's a relative existence that more concrete than the relative images. We don't know.
We don't know.
The question that I want to leave everybody, which I want to deal with next week, is there something beyond that God is? That is the question. More than Echad Yochanan Yuchad. I mean, it seems like we've already hit bottom. That God is the only thing that exists. There's really nothing else besides Him. That would seem to be the greatest understanding we have of God's nature, which really says that we don't really know His nature, except the fact that His existence. But the question is there a more profound understanding of God? The answer there is. There is one more level. That if you think you've been blown away by this, you got to get the next level. And the next level is the last level, and it's the greatest understanding of God. Okay, and that'll give you a handle. And once you have that understanding, you begin to understand, who you're dealing with really, and so on, and what reality really comes to be, and so on. So next week we'll talk about the last phase of reality of God, and so on. And after that, I'm going to Eretz Yisrael. I'll be back in the end of February. So there's a break for about 8 weeks.
So next week is...
Because it's going to take you at least 8 weeks to get over this year and the next year, till you straighten yourself out.
So in other words, it's hit and run.
It's a hit and run. Well, from a motor vehicle perspective, maybe that's what you'd call it. A hit and run, yeah.
Yes.
This is sort of like Star Trek. If you ever seen on Star Trek, there's something called a holodeck. Things that existed on the holodeck. At the end of the show, they said end program. It stopped.
Yeah.
So then they asked themselves, maybe we're all just one big program.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's The Matrix. That movie. Everything is
When 8:30.
Monday and Wednesday. No, the
That's the concept of that.
Joe Parker 3.
Okay, so we will do what we have to do when I come back.
Yes, yes, yes.
We'll do the whole thing. That'd be fabulous. And you say you can clean it up?
Yeah.
Each, the tape, I'll give you the tapes.
Yeah.
Okay, that would be fabulous.
You'll be here from next Mitzvah Shabbos.
So next Mitzvah Shabbos,
Next break.
9:30, and then we take a break. Is that still on?
Yeah. Off.